by John Kachemba, Markets Editor. Finance Minister Patrick Chinamasa. Zimbabwe's Finance Minister Patrick Chinamasa signaled government's new economic policy thrust in the first post-Robert Mugabe national budget statement last week, but economists said more action was needed to turn around the economy. Chinamasa, who was in October demoted to the Cybersecurity Ministry before bouncing back to Treasury after a November military intervention that brought to an end Mugabe's 37-year reign, announced a cocktail of measures aimed at stimulating the economy, including reducing government expenditure and amending the controversial indigenization law. François Conradi, an analyst with NKC African Economics, said Chinamasa, a lawyer-cum politician, made the right move on some key elements of fiscal policy, but hoped this week's ZANUPF Congress would contain more measures to attract investment. It is a pity that more was not done to slash the public sector wage bill. Retaining the $176 million for bonuses, for example, is unnecessary, but the new government has to bring as much of the ruling party on side as possible, and we hope that it can make these cuts at a future stage when, hopefully, the private sector has grown enough that civil servants have other career options, he said. The change to the indigenization law is absolutely key, and we think that will do the most to attract foreign direct investment (FDI) and act as a catalyst for private sector development. Conradi added, Zimbabwe's indigenization policy, which came into effect in 2010 and forces foreign investors to cede 51% shareholding to locals, was regarded by many as an impediment to FDI. Statistics from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development show that Zimbabwe has registered an average $400 million in FDI in the past decade compared to a regional average of $2 billion. In a bid to revive the southern African nation's battered economy, Chinamasa said the law will now only apply to the diamond and platinum sectors. As we seek to attract both local and foreign investments, existing and potential investors become fully guided by the amendments we seek to effect through the finance bill that is being brought to this August House, he said, adding that the modifications will come into effect by April 2018. Economist Gift Magano said Chinamasa's pronouncement on indigenization was timely as the controversial policy was used, in some respects, as a framework aimed at expropriation of companies. We must actually have a memorial service for the indigenization policy. This very same policy was quite significant in starving us of foreign direct investment and associated jobs. However, going forward, there is still scope to review the policy in the platinum sector. Hopefully, government can consider the sector's support to the local content policy and value addition and beneficiation as a form of indigenization, he said. Local investment firm Equity Access said the 2018 budget was the most bullish and positive budget since 2000, which sets a positive tone towards a new economic order. The targets are broadly a tall order, but not necessarily a pie in the sky. It is achievable. Focus on the endogenous factors of the economy, which is more susceptible to alterations, can ensure quick wins, Equity Access said in a research note on Monday. There are low-hanging fruits anywhere, such as non-existent ghost public workers that can be easily eliminated for quick gains. However, to address most of these issues, government needs to be politically prepared to change course from a patronage system, the company said. Equity Access further noted that sustainable incremental gains from reforms will likely be observed in the mid to long term, while short-term results may be adversely affected by rationalization and reorganization costs. Such changes may also disrupt short-term service delivery, while sabotage and looting may be rife to parties anticipating to be affected. A shift in culture is a very painful exercise, and it is often resisted. Implementation of reforms is also likely to be affected by pending elections in 2018, which do not favor contractionary policies. We foresee revenue targets for 2018 being met, but we are not very optimistic on the expenditure side, where overlapping trappings can potentially be experienced, in turn impacting negatively on the budget deficit. We, however, expect the deficit to be lower than 2017, the company added. In his budget speech, Chinamasa announced that more than 3,700 jobs in the youth service would be cut. Months before his resignation, Mugabe had ordered the reinstatement of youth and gender offices in rural areas, but they have often been accused of campaigning on behalf of ZANU-PF. In the past, Mugabe has been reluctant to cut the bloated civil service, whose salaries consume at least 90% of the budget. President Emerson Mnangagwa's administration has promised to trim the civil service and retire workers over 65 years old from January, while benefits to top officials will be reduced. Government has also proposed corporate income tax breaks for the energy sector. Companies involved in power generation will be exempt from paying income tax for 5 years, after which they will be subject to a 15% tax. Chinamasa also offered a tax amnesty on debts acquired prior to December 1 with interest and penalties accrued on the debt being written off if taxpayers settled their debts on or before June 30, 2018. Tax advisory firm Tax Matrix said next year's budget was meant to assist in a new economic order. Therefore, it is geared towards restoring discipline, correcting the fiscal imbalances, public enterprises and local authorities reforms, improving the conducive investment environment, flashing out corruption, re-engagement with the international community, stimulating local production and exporting and job creation. The process is thus ongoing and further measures may be expected in the coming year, the company said in its analysis of the national budget. Newsdesk at things.co.zw.